I thought I would kick things off and ask you both, as you were doing all of this really incredible research, finding all of this archival footage of Whitney, was there anything that surprised you that you didn't, what was the most that surprised you about her that you were not aware of? What was sort of the most insightful thing that you have found?
Well, Rudi obviously knew her, so for me it was really a voyage of discovery, because I didn't know that much when I started the film. I think the thing that kind of affected me the most was that she was so funny and such a wit, such a natural kind of comic. And I think a lot of her friends just loved her because she was so funny and she laughed, which is so different from that kind of image. And I think it made, for me, it made it much more tragic, you know, in a way.
Yeah, I'm still, it's a little bit difficult for me to. I'm remembering
me too.
most, of course, but I was remembering everything that was filmed. Well, listen, I was not so much the researcher of archive footage. I was the lucky guy who had access, and I did my best to cover this person as good as I could at the various times, but especially in '99. It's just a tragic loss. It's just, and what makes me actually angry is that it is so unnecessary. And I'm absolutely sure, and if it would have taken another proof, then it was your interview with the bodyguard who sort of wrote these lines, that I was always asking, why could nobody help her? You know, I mean, she wanted to get away from, that's what was one drug counselor. As you know, there was another one who was very crucial, a gentleman. So she wanted to get away. So she was not somebody who was just, you know, doing it all and not thinking or didn't feel any responsibility. And I mean, I'm still shocked, and every time I see this, and every time I see this waste of one of the greatest talents on earth that I ever sort of heard about, I say, what a pity, how unnecessary.
Are there questions in the audience?
Hey Nick, congrats on the film, a great film. What was the legal deal? Who was on the law film?
So what was the last part?
What was the legal deal? Who was trying to block the film?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, I kind of don't want to get into all that. I mean, it's all gonna, because I kind of want to celebrate Whitney Houston. And, yeah. And I think that's what kind of united Rudi and I so much on this long and somewhat tortured process of getting the film out there. And I think, you know, the legal stuff is just there, but it's out. It's happened today. I'm very pleased that Tribeca supported us, and I think it's great to actually share this film and Rudi's work too with, you know, with an audience. The first one, I might add.
So the film, the concert that was being filmed in 1999, was that supposed to have been a documentary that was supposed to come out in 1999? And why didn't it come out, and why is that put different now?
Okay, you want to answer this?
Yeah.
Well, just to very short, I started working and filming with Whitney when her first album was released. The very last picture of the film, the black and white interview, was something I did when her first album came out. And I was at the time working for Austrian and German television and doing little documentaries here and there with her and interviews, etc. And around '99, I finished a film called Freddie Mercury, The Untold Story, which what I was very happy with, also earned me a Grammy nomination. And she talked to me and she said, I want a film like this about me. I mean, Whitney talked to me and said she wants to film like the Freddie film about her. And I was a very young and ambitious, and you know, my mouth was always bigger than my thoughts. I said, okay, fine, we can start tomorrow. And she said, okay, tomorrow, 12 o'clock, Hyatt Hotel Cologne, that's where my European tour starts. And this is when we started to film all that, which was, it ended up for months and months in Europe for almost all the concerts. And while we were doing this, and of course Robin Crawford was very much involved in this, because she was a very film educated person. You know, it was very helpful and so on. Whitney wanted one concert to be filmed, and obviously, you know, they got better and better. And then she said, well, why don't we film the last concert of the European tour, which happened to be Leipzig, which actually was not a great venue to film. I mean, if you see the one or two shots from behind, it was not a great place visually. But she gave us always a great performance. And to cut it short, the reason why then nothing happened with this footage is we said I would do a selection and come to New York and discuss it with her, and then the Academy Awards happened. And I called her up. I actually visited her in New York. I said, Whitney, we cannot release a film. You know, we never talked about drugs. I never have seen her taking drugs. We cannot release a tour film just as nothing has happened. And I was making a suggestion. I said, let's do another 10-minute interview. And you just tell the people, yes, I'm having problems, but I'm working on it. And I told her, and the people will love it. Your fans will love it. And she was under complete denial. No, I don't have a drug problem. So I said, well, okay, anyway, but like this, I'm not gonna let this be released, so it was sitting. And then after many, many attempts, Nick Broomfield came and this finally saw the light of day.
All the way in the back.
Hi. This was an absolute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
This was an absolutely amazing film. I'm very fascinated by the relationship between Robin and Whitney, and I think the way it was presented in the film, I think you all kind of leave it to other people to kind of describe the parameters of that relationship. And I see so many things like in the way of that, like obviously like homophobia, fragile masculinity, all these things that really interfere with the person who it seemed like maybe was the only person who had Whitney's best interest at heart. And I think just from your perspective as someone who was around, I'd like to just know more about what you personally thought about that relationship in particular.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I think that Robin was probably the only person, at least I met, who completely understood Whitney and what Whitney was about. And I think that Whitney trusted Robin 100%. And anything I saw, this started with food or should we do this or not, or television shows or whatever. So she was her, I think in English you say confidant, is that a word that would maybe fit? And I also saw the friction and the dilemma that Whitney was in with now having a husband and having this good friend, Robin. And although Robin, I think, did a wonderful job in stepping back and really swallowing a lot of things, and I'm not going to talk very bad about Mr. Bobby Brown, because for other reasons. It didn't work. No, because it's not true that he came and everything was worse. It's just not true. It's the same lie as Yoko Ono wasn't responsible for the Beatles split up. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's too simple, and there were too many. It was too. How do you say in English? There were too many things happening. But what I know is that Robin was her very best friend until the end, and even when she was not there anymore. And I remember a phone call of Robin when she told me that she's going to leave, and that was very personal. I'm not going to talk about it, but I knew then that it's going to be hard for Whitney without Robin. Maybe.
Yes, right in the middle. Yes, standing up.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this film. It was amazing. I'm still trying to process it all. Did you receive any opposition from the family in regards to doing this film?
Well, sorry, I didn't hear.
The question is, did you get any opposition from the family?
Well, again, I mean, there have been problems, which is why we only knew at 2:45 this afternoon that the festival was actually going to show the film. I think I'm just going to hold onto the thought that the film is out there and forget the problems. I think it's really another look at the history of this amazing singer, who I think was kind of, you know, if you look at the talk shows of David Letterman and Leno and so on, who had a lot of humor at her expense. It's kind of a way of redressing some of that, and I think that's very much what I want to come out of this. Not that I'm
An aisle here.
I just want to say thank you for presenting Whitney in a light that doesn't get shown as often. She kind of gets this reputation now that it's just so negative, and I think you showed a real person up there, and I really, really appreciate that as a fan. And then I'm gonna be a little selfish, and I'm gonna ask that concert footage. Are we ever gonna see that amazing concert you guys filmed of her, and different dates of like the full footage of the concert?
Yeah, the thing is, let me answer this a little bit funny, because otherwise we all get so sad and I start to cry again. I had something like 7 meetings with a record company in New York City and in Los Angeles, because obviously this concert was filmed in 1999, and I wanted to release it, and they were not sure if it's good enough.
What?
Okay? Let's leave it at that. No legal problems at the time, by the way. No legal problems.
So we have time for one more question. The gentleman here, yes?
Can you talk a little about her relationship with Clive Davis, and if you spoke to him or tried to speak to him? That was one of the long-term relationships that we didn't hear that much about.
Well, I mean, Rudi can answer this too. I mean, yeah, we did reach out to Clive Davis at the beginning of the film out of kind of a respect, if anything. And I think, I mean, it was very interesting for me in making the film to talk to those other executives from Arista. Because, you know, in those days, the record companies were very much, there was a black division and a white division. And I was very interested in what the mechanics were of actually creating this, you know, crossover artist. I think, I mean, I hope in the film you get a sense of what Clive Davis achieved, and also some of the repercussions that occurred, you know, for Whitney afterwards in dealing with the created part of her. But, you know, that I kind of didn't want to point fingers unnecessarily, and I think it's very much for everybody to kind of try and work out what happened. But I mean, Rudi, you were more involved with that.
Well, I think that there's no doubt that Clive Davis had a very, very crucial and important role in making her career. At an earlier stage, before the two of us met each other, I was doing a 6.5 hours interview with Clive, and he was very supportive to the stuff. But let's put it that way: the moment when the family decided to do their own film, we decided not to, or you decided not to use any of Clive Davis stuff.
Yeah, because you've done quite a lot of
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Okay, so I want to thank you both for being here. Congratulations on the film. We're so pleased to have it. I want to remind